I'm gonna be honest. It's June. It's Pride Month. I'm gonna come out. I like video game remakes. I think it is so neat when a developer takes a concept they had in the past and re-releases it with modern technology and ideas. Sometimes going back to play old games is a pain in the ass because the hardware is inaccessible, the game is bogged down by old-gen gang, or because the game itself is just too expensive. Sometimes when a series gets to be very lengthy and spans multiple generations, the old games pale in comparison to the new games. So remaking the old games can give fans an easier barrier to entry into that particular series. Remaking a game gives gamers the chance to revisit the old idea in the same way the developers did. Most of the time. There is another side to this, where companies just remake their best sellers that are already accessible and modern to exploit nostalgia and get a quick buck out of their fan base. There's also the side of remakes where they unnecessarily stretch the game out for a lengthy duration to get as much exposure and money out of their fans as possible, and I am not calling anyone or any game out in particular. Sorry, Twin. And a lot of the time, not always, but a lot of the time, these remakes are still made well and feel good to play, but just seem unnecessary when other games haven't received the same treatment. And there's a pretty big poster child for this just sitting there very loudly in silence. I think when people think of remakes that just didn't need to happen, The Last of Us Part 1 is exactly what they think of. This game did come out on PS3, but was remastered and still looks and plays fine in the grander scheme of games that released in that era. This game is more than accessible due to its PS3, PS4, and PS5 ports, and is widely considered a modern classic. I get why they did it, unfortunately. Marketing synergy is one hell of a fucking drug. Naughty Dog was doing a huge push with this series, with the show adaptation skyrocketing The Last of Us to new heights of popularity. But I'm not just gonna sit here and lie to you and say that this remake isn't a lot of fun. I mean, it's The Last of Us with The Last of Us Part 2 combat and enhanced graphics. Like, it's still a great time. The combat has a weighty punch, shotgun kills are still crunchy, and the graphics are as beautiful and crispy as ever. The Last of Us Part 1 remake is the strawberries and cream Dr. Pepper of video games. Very tasty at the moment, but entirely superfluous. It especially infuriates me because while Joel and Ellie get some 4K Botox, there is another PS3 game just sitting there with no remake that desperately needs one. I think we are all well familiar with how I feel about the Yakuza series. They have consistently ranked very highly on my year-end lists, and I'm constantly tweeting and trying to drag my friends into the fucked up chaos that is Kiryu's saga. With a series that spans as long as Yakuza does, trying to reduce the barrier to entry is critical in establishing a growing fan base. Let me put it this way. Okay, so you have 9 mainline games, Yakuza 0 through 8, spanning 2 different protagonists. Then you have Judgment and Lost Judgment, which are spin-offs with another protagonist. Then you have Ishin, which is Yakuza in feudal Japan, and then there's Pirate Yakuza with Majima, a character that's established in Yakuza 0. Then there's Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name. I'll be honest, I don't know anything about this entry, but there's one more spin-off with Yakuza Dead Souls, which is a zombie spin-off game that is, oh my god. And if we want to get even crazier, you can go ahead and throw in Shenmue, which is a spiritual successor to the Yakuza series. This makes Kingdom Hearts look like a breeze. We've seen a few remakes with this series with Yakuza Kiwami and Kiwami 2, and these games feel and look great. If there's a game in the series that needs that, it's Yakuza 3. Yakuza 3 is the black sheep of the series, where in 0 through 2, I'm doing shit like... In Yakuza 3, I'm going fishing. I'm feeding a doggy a burger. I'm helping a kid get a date with his crush at school. The sub-stories are as goofy and fun as ever. Tender Kiryu Daddy is a nice, refreshing switch-up to the Yakuza formula, and I'm enjoying his growth as a character. But what I don't like is literally everything else. I have seen DMV lines that move faster than Kiryu in this game. I think I took the Kiwami sprint function for granted because I want Kiryu to run like 10% faster. The combat is decent, but the heat actions are nowhere near as visceral and satisfying as the other entries. Not to mention how defensive this game feels, to the point where fans call this game Yakuza 3. The city is very small, and there aren't too many worthwhile minigames that I've noticed, except for the Cabaret Club and, of course, karaoke. This game did get a remaster, but that was about as effective as washing a car with a hose. I could have sworn we were gonna see Yakuza 3 Kiwami at the Tokyo Game Show, but instead we got Pirate Majima, which has been pretty divisive within the fan base. I have some decent intuition that this game will eventually receive a Kiwami version, which sucks because I'm halfway through this f***ing thing, and I know when a Kiwami version comes out, I'm gonna play it again. But what I'm not gonna play again is... When I initially played Until Dawn, I was thoroughly impressed. Sure, it was campy, written like how adults think teenagers talk, and didn't scare me other than random cheap-ass jump scares. Plus, this game was released in the butterfly effect era of video games, where your decisions matter and create branching narratives, thank you Life is Strange. I think what helped this game stand out was how it utilized PS4 hardware, plus the work of the actors like Rami Malek, Peter Stormare, and Hayden Panettiere. It's charming because they leaned into the camp. It was a B-grade horror movie as a video game, and it wasn't trying to be anything else. But then you listen to the characters talk and wish they would stop talking. You need a PhD in storytelling to figure out the complicated decision trees, stiff controls, character models that look like wax figures, and I don't know, Peter Stormare is looking at me like he doesn't know if he wants to eat me or not. I am so split on this game because it hasn't aged horribly, but not gracefully either. By modern standards, this game is a mess, but I still think it holds up well enough for anyone with a PS4 that's ripe for a playthrough. On paper, a remake of this game makes sense, but in practice completely falls on its face. Earlier during the Last of Us section, I mentioned that marketing synergy is a hell of a drug, and... Yup. $60 for this is egregious. It looks like a good remake, but completely f***ing unnecessary, being made to capitalize on pre-movie release hype. I think a $40 remaster would have been much more digestible, but like I said, half the charm of the game is the utilization of the PS4 hardware, so I don't know how putting this on the PC is gonna make anyone care about this game anymore. This is a remake that is trying to preserve a brand rather than preserving a game. Speaking of preserving games, this is one that I just can't let people forget about. Gears of War 2 is widely considered the absolute peak of the series, and I am inclined to agree even if I like the third entry just a little bit more. Gears 2 was half kill people with chainsaw guns and also let's make gamers feel emotions. And this game did that perfectly. A scene that I still think about is when Dom finds Maria, and if you've seen this, you know exactly where you were and how you felt. This scene packed a punch with the subtlety of a dump truck driving through a nitroglycerin plant. The multiplayer was fast and chaotic, the executions were brutal, and the graphics were stunning. For 2008. Yeah, go and play this game now and you'll see what I mean. The character models look like sculpted beef jerky, the cover system feels chunky, the movement feels all sorts of wrong, and it's covered in that gray-yellow Gen 7 piss filter. And worst of all, this game is only accessible through an Xbox console, not PC. They gave us a Halo collection with the classic titles, but not Gears of War. Can you imagine Gears 2 Horde mode, multiplayer, and campaign with enhanced gameplay, visuals, and netcode? Hello, Dominoes, yeah, I'll take 3. And it's not like this series is dead. We just received Gears Tactica, and even an announcement for a prequel title, Gears E-Day, that even after being f***ed time and time again, I still have hope for. There was another title too that I'm forgetting. Oh my god, what was it? This game pisses me off, possibly more than anything on the list so far. It's not like we received a remastered version of this game that feels like a remake relatively recently, right? What's that? We did? Gears Ultimate Edition was released in 2015, and I recently played this game again for my Gears and Halo video. This game holds up amazingly. It feels great, the visuals are beautiful, and the frame rates are much smoother and more consistent. It played perfectly, and it served its purpose. This is the Oblivion remaster paradox, where it's essentially a remake, but is considered a remaster, so what the hell is the point of remaking it again? Yes, Gears 1 with new multiplayer and enhanced visuals and frame rates is cool, but completely unnecessary. This is literal product inflation. Yes, Gears Reloaded or whatever word they're using is coming with enhanced frame rates, higher fidelity, and probably some eye-assaulting motion blur. But is this truly needed after the Ultimate Edition releasing only a few years earlier? The saving grace of this is that it's not fully priced and is also going to be available on Game Pass, but come on, dude. Like, this has nothing to do with accessibility. Like, dude, we are ignoring the game in the series that needs and deserves a remake. Gears 2 is right there and is considered the best in the series. Why are we wasting our time on a game I played 3 times already? This is yet another Last of Us Part 1 remake situation where we're baiting nostalgia and trying to squeeze some money out of its fans. Gears 1 is an easier and safer option, which makes it more fiscally viable than possibly risking a loss for something that may not sell as well. But I think I, and many other longtime Gears fans, would be so willing to pay for a full-price remake of 2, and it would be a hell of a lot more meaningful. What bothers me the most is it's probably gonna be good, I'm gonna play it, I'm gonna play the multiplayer, you're gonna play it too, but we're both gonna be sitting there wondering why the hell we're playing it again. But what we should be playing instead is Resident Evil 5. This is quite possibly the safest bet when it comes to getting a remake. Capcom has been on a hot streak with their remakes, recently releasing the Resident Evil 4 remake, which has been one of my favorite games to release this decade. And with the recently announced Resident Evil 9 Requiem, this could take a bit longer. But because of this, Resident Evil 5 is next in line and is actually in desperate need of some retuning. I think this is possibly the most underrated Resident Evil title. The mechanics are solid and the multiplayer is super fun, but tonally it is all over the f***ing place.
And they say,
this game is an identity crisis printed onto a disc. It doesn't know if it wants to be a true blue horror experience or an 80s action movie. Because of this, the game has untapped remake potential. They could make the atmosphere more consistent, make it more horror, turn down the cartoonish machismo, and give us some real tension. The plot needs a complete rework because I don't know if the writers knew how to handle bioterrorism without veering into white savior territory. This is the perfect chance for some recontextualization. I have no fear in my heart that Capcom would screw this up because they are on such a hot streak, so I think giving us some great co-op and a revamped story could show people how good Resident Evil 5 could be. While we're on the survival horror train, let's talk about the Dead Space remake. Man, this one breaks my f***ing heart. As the resident survival horror dick-riding YouTuber, I think that this remake wasn't truly needed, but not in the way that you'd think. I think this game deserved a remake, and it got one. And you know what? It's a damn fine remake at that. It's faithful in all the right ways. The game is brutal, terrifying, fun, atmospheric, and sounds incredible. They did a really good job with the sound design on this one. The plasma cutter sounds so good. The vents whisper with pure horror. And the stomp, oh my god, the stomp. So no, I don't hate the remake because it was bad or unnecessary. What bothers me is how they revived the series just to kill it again. EA released the series like it was back, but then disappeared, and we never got a word about the series again. No DLC, no sequel, no spin-off, no Isaac dancing all-night rhythm game, nothing. What I think this remake was a test. EA wanted to see if it'd be worth it to make anything else with the series, considering the sales and reception. I mean, it sold pretty decently and actually got rave reviews from fans and critics. But I guess not enough to push us into a Dead Space renaissance like I thought it would, which is what makes the remake so damn frustrating. This remake was just the flowers on the Dead Space tombstone, and a fully priced bouquet of flowers at that. So I am relatively new to this series, only recently beating the first entry with plans to move on to the second soon, but oh my goodness, this game is desperate for a remake. This game is another one like Resident Evil 5 that just drips potential. This game was released before I was even born and is somehow more interesting and fun to play than Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. This is a game where you will be in the middle of a boss fight and then you'll get 15 calls on your Nokia from people just rambling on about whatever they can. This game does a really excellent job of simulating the feeling of falling down an infinite rabbit hole while traversing this advanced military base. Rather than thinking outside the box, Kojima thought, under the box. While I think this game still holds up, I think it's begging for a restoration. It feels stiff sometimes, the sightlines range from annoying to moronic, and the shooting is a sick joke. With a modern remake, this game could bring a more fluid stealth system, better shooting mechanics, and better camera angles than this one that was ripped straight out of Satan's lair. Imagine Shadow Moses with modern graphics. Oh my god, it would be a cinematic masterpiece. And it's not like this game isn't accessible, it's actually very easily available, as I played the first game on the Switch collection. But I think putting this all over with a remake would bring Metal Gear to new heights. There is of course the Metal Gear 3 remake releasing soon, but I think Konami could benefit from a redo of 1. This is a masterpiece of a video game trapped inside of a time capsule. Its ideas are timeless, but the systems aren't. Now here's an example of a game with no systems that is pretty modern. This fucking dumpster fire. I don't see any reason to remake this game when it had just come out a hair earlier on the 3DS. Not to mention the fact that this game was received pretty poorly for its abandonment of explorative design and an inclusion of a level system that just breaks the pacing of the game entirely. The remake doesn't look a whole lot better than the original, and they didn't do a whole lot to improve the system that they broke for no fucking reason. The only reason this game is worth any amount of money is that the multiplayer is pretty well done. The number of people with a 3DS and Luigi's Mansion 2 is pretty much non-existent, but the Switch player base is much larger, and with an allegedly stronger netcode, this game is pretty much multiplayer bliss. Another example of Nintendo just trying to squeeze a little bit of money out of their fans because they hate them, and of course I can't complain because I am simply a c**k. I am also a c**k for most Bethesda games too. This is the one game on the list I could see some pushback over because the game does exist on PC, and most mods and 12 hours worth of troubleshooting with crash logs will probably make this game better than any remake Bethesda could do. But I mean, look at the Oblivion remaster. Clearly there is a market of gamers that want the old Bethesda games with modern mechanics. But a lot of the time, gamers are quicker to the punch with Bethesda games. I didn't expect the Oblivion remaster, but after seeing the Skyblivion fan project, I kinda understand why they would shadow drop this. Even with Fallout New Vegas just rotting away in 2010, they've re-released Skyrim a billion times and are still funding the atrocious Fallout 76. I think leaving the game up to modders to hold the game together with duct tape and compatibility files is really unfortunate. This game is so heartbreakingly good and deserves nothing more than to be remade on a modern engine. This is a game where the narrative and gameplay don't need any fixing. The technical foundation does. They could rebalance things, tweak dialogue, and enhance the AI. The main reason we haven't seen a remake for this, and this is just one of those crackpot Kyler 360 theories, is just because the license is split up between Obsidian and Bethesda. Bethesda is probably focused on Elder Scrolls 6, I think, and Obsidian is out working on The Outer Worlds 2, so a remake probably isn't in the cards, but it'd be really cool if it was. Ah yes, a tale as old as time, and a crime as old as... well, I guess 2012. The person who greenlit this was probably the same motherfucker who greenlit Luigi's Mansion 2 remake. There's gotta be some wheel at Nintendo they just spin with old games to re-release for a quick cash infusion. Why? If Mario Wonder was in the plans, then what the hell was the point of releasing this?
Money!
Oh, right, yeah. Nintendo naming department has always been on some bullshit, but this game is just hilarious to me. Can't wait for the new Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe Ultimate Reloaded featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series. This game is another head-scratcher. Like, it's probably good, I don't know, I'm not gonna waste my time. It just seems terminally safe. It's too familiar. It has no flavor, no personality, no sauce, no juice, no vegetables. The level design is still sterilized. The art style is still generic. The music is so tired. So why?
Money!
Fuck, sorry, I keep forgetting. This game also made the unfortunate mistake of launching Bowsette into proper memehood, and that's pretty much the only thing that this game did that is worth talking about. Look, if you have a Switch and you're foaming at the mouth for a new 2D Mario title, I'd just shell out the money you'd spend on this and get Mario Wonder. Is that game good? Don't know, I've never played it. But it looks like it at least tried, and I'll give them all of my YouTube revenue to not remake this game ever again. Now, this is a series where we've gotten a few remakes, just not the right one. I think there is a pretty clear reason as to why we haven't received a remake of this game. While it has a devout following, myself included, skating games have vastly fallen out of relevance. Despite this, we did receive Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, which were pretty faithful remakes. And while I appreciate the style of this, I do miss the punchy emo punk rock fever dream that is American Wasteland. This game was ridiculous in the best ways. It was kinda open world, but not really. The physics engine was completely busted and allowed you to get crazy high combos and had the most 2000s plotline ever written. It wasn't the best skating sim, it wasn't the most realistic skating sim, but it was the fun skating sim. The biggest issue I have though is how seemingly inaccessible this game is. This game isn't backwards compatible on the new Xbox, and I'm not sure if it's on console Game Pass or not, but it's not on PC. Because of this, let me just head to eBay and pick up a copy. Oh my god. A remake of this game could fix that f***y open world, cut the loading screens, give us better customization, and expand on the chaos. I want a new skating game that bleeds teenage angst. The problem that would occur with this remake is if they made it more realistic, which is seemingly what would happen. Plus, there is the risk of this game not selling well, but I think if they lean into the freakiness of it, they could make an amazing title. On the subject of not selling well, let's give it up for the remake that sank an entire f***ing company. I have been incredibly vocal on how much I love the original Bowser's Inside Story. I think this game just oozes originality. It has really fun turn-based mechanics and a great soundtrack to go along with it. It was such a cool concept to have our Italian plumbers team up with everyone's favorite racist dinosaur thing. This is another case where I think Nintendo just spun the fucking wheel and this is the game that it landed on. Another head scratcher considering the original released on the DS, which is functionally similar to the 3DS. It also just didn't feel like a remake at all. It was nearly identical. It's like if you had a sandwich on a paper plate and then moved it to a plastic plate and said, okay, I've remade my lunch. Let's talk about the release. It was 2019. 2019. 2019. Almost 3 years after the Switch launched. Bro, the 3DS at this point was pretty much dead. And not one person was asking for a 3DS remake of a DS game. So much so that developer Alpha Dream was shut down because of it. They wasted time, money, energy, and resources on a game that sold like sweat butt. The remake did nothing. It didn't push any boundaries, didn't bring in any new fans, didn't reinvigorate the series, and made it way too easy. I think a way they could have remedied this was by doing a triple pack, similar to Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Give me Bowser's Inside Story, Superstar Saga, and Partners in Time, all in one bundle on the Switch, and boom, you sell copies. But nope, they sold the same version of a game on an outdated console and called it a remake. Rest in peace, Alpha Dream. You deserved better. Ah, yes. Not only am I the resident survival horror but also the resident Rockstar Games. While I love Grand Theft Auto 4, it is very clearly held back by really poor and old mechanics. There are a lot of things that this game does that I love, but there are also a lot of things about this game that give me appendicitis. This game, for the time, was genre-defying. It had a genuine soul. The narrative was fleshed out. It was gritty, introspective, with a tinge of satirical melancholy. The open world was not only dynamic, but it was almost vertical. It was an amazing sandbox to just f*** around in. Where this game struggles is with the old hardware mechanics. The game's driving is some of the worst in the series. When you think of New York City, you think fast, quick, always moving. The same cannot be said about GTA 4's driving. The driving is slow, clunky, and sluggish. Cars don't feel very satisfying to drive. They feel more like forklifts, but thankfully I'm forklift certified. The gunplay is okay, but it's also kind of floaty and doesn't pack any punch, and the cover system, much like most Rockstar games, is a sad joke. Because of all of this, I always think about what GTA 4 would look like in Red Dead 2's engine. Imagine the rain-soaked streets, the diversity of people, and the rumble of subways in Liberty City with a higher resolution and fidelity. I mean, come on, that would be awesome. Additionally, they could pack the Lost and Damned, and even the Ballad of Gay Tony, which is still one of my favorite video game DLCs ever made. A remake of this game is another feat of impossibility because remakes aren't something Rockstar typically does. Plus, the last time they did it, they broke it. They're more likely to continue to beef up GTA 5 online and work on GTA 6 than spend time on a remake risk. But like, imagine if they let us tell Roman no. I mean, While on the topic of games with 4 in the title, this seems to be the most recent remake on the list. So recent that it has only just been announced and isn't even out yet, but I mean, it's not like there's a remake for this game already. What's that? There is? This is another remake that just doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Persona 4 Golden is a remake that is very easily accessible. It's on legitimately everything, even the Vita, so redoing this again makes no logical sense. While some Atlus stands say this is an enhanced port, they replaced and updated so many things that this feels like an entirely new game. I think Atlus fans were kinda just desperate for a new announcement. The silence over any alleged Persona 6 has Megami Tensei fans frothing for a new game, and this was just the easiest one to pump out. The unfortunate thing about all of it is that Persona 1 and 2 are both just sitting there with nothing and are much harder to access than Persona 4. Again, as with most games that received remakes on this list, Persona 4 is just a safe bet financially. This game is a hell of a lot more popular than Persona 1 and 2, but maybe that's because, disregarding emulation, these games are fucking impossible to find or play.
Did someone say Megaten game that needs a remake?
Jesus, man, you need to stop barging in when I mention this game. But I do agree, this game is in desperate need of some refinement. Now, I have been fairly critical of my time with Shin Megami Tensei IV. While I don't think it's a bad game, it's just not a game for me. It combines two things that don't typically sit well with me: anime and RNG-ass combat.
If you call this an anime game one more time, I'm going to hit you with my car.
As I was saying, this anime game...
Now that Kyler is dead, let me tell you about Shin Megami Tensei IV. Shin Megami Tensei IV was first released in 2013 for the 3DS. Based on age and platform alone, it's a great candidate for revival, Roderick. Featuring Roderick from the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series. It's a turn-based monster collecting RPG with some damn fine music, and I love it dearly, but even I'll readily admit it's flawed. The world map is grainy, the objective and where the game wants you to go is not always clear, the alignment system is totally hidden, the 5th CPU party member has spawned memes for being such a vegetative AI, if that is even a thing. Not only could Atlus go back and patch this stuff up for a remake, but the Shin Megami Tensei series is at an all-time high right now. I mean, dude, we're getting a Rado 1 remaster before SMT4. If this can happen, surely we can...
Honestly, I think you've really hit the nail on the head here.
Who let you come back to life? Damn, they remade Kyler 360 before SMT4 too.
Most of my complaints with the game are exactly as you described. I hate the party member system, and I wish they would either let me control the 5th member or just chop it off entirely. I do love a lot of things about this game though. I think the music is fucking bangarang, the story is well thought out and mature, and the demons can be funny and expressive to talk to. SMT5 just showed Atlus that there's still a market for Shin Megami Tensei, and what better way to rekindle old and new fans' love for the game than remaking what is widely considered the best in the series.
Dog, just imagine what could be done using the learned lesson that is Shin Megami Tensei V. Better presentation for sure, and 3D demons even.
That's facts. Okay, I'm done talking about anime games. Can we go have a fire now?